is Godz KC here, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. So we are actually going to be doing a Zulrah 250 with 250, and we're going to do 250 with Tbow and 250 with the Shadow. Just kind of see which one's better, get a feel, get like example kills. It's going to be KC based, but at the end I'm going to make a decision. Overall, it's going to be based off of what felt the best and based off of how much I made, how much profit I lost, or how much I spent on everything. So this is what we're gonna do first. We're gonna do the Tbow first. Tbow's kind of been like a staple here for me. When I did buy my first Tbow, I did camp with Zulrah for a little while. I did not get many uniques, as you can see here, but it was still good GP. So this is some of those onyxes I actually got from Coliseum. So it's kind of like, yeah, I really haven't had much luck at Zulrah, which sucks. But I reset my loot tracker for this as well. As you can see, like, I actually got really lucky. I have two shadows in my name, and that's from way back when, uh, earlier this year, I should say. I've spooned two shadows pretty much this year. One was a duo, one was a solo. Here's our first KC though, and we're going in it. This is kind of like a normal loot, not too much. I was I I've been spooning a lot of places, but Zulrah does not seem to like me. I will say with the Tbow, it seems that you hit quite often, but the downside is it feels like you don't max hit very often. You can see there, I didn't really use a lot of supplies. I was probably getting, it depends on how I was doing my trips, but I was getting about 4 KC per trip, and that was pretty average with the Tbow. Sometimes I would get 6 or 7. As you can see, I didn't bring a lot of prayer pots because there's times where Zulrah just smacks you, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Zulrah just hits. Pardon me. Jad phase there. So that's one thing that I like to try to avoid is Jad phase. It seems with the mega rares, typically you don't get there very often. I'm gonna also just kind of speed through some of this loot here. Um, I did die with the Tbow. I think I died twice with the Tbow in total. I don't. I can't remember if I did with the Shadow. I think I may have, but as you can see here, I've been getting quite a few KC here, and honestly, the scales weren't too bad a price right now. They've gone down a little bit since the melee version came out. I did not try the melee version. I really do want to try that. That's on my list of things to do because I do have Torva. I've got to get an Ox Halley, but I do have Chally. I've seen people actually get really like quick KCs with it, like 54 seconds or so. So I did get a PB while doing this of 47 seconds, and I did get that with the Tbow. My prior was 48 seconds, I believe, with the Shadow. So it wasn't too much of a difference. It just was a little quicker. You can see there, I'm telling my Tbow to hit. That's what gets frustrating, is when you should get like a PB, and your Tbow or your Shadow just goes, I don't want to hit for the next 3 shots. So breezing into the KC, I actually didn't include all of the Shadow ones. Um, I did get 2 uniques during the Shadow, but there were just so many clips to go through, and I was looking at this, and it was already a pretty long video, and I didn't want to make it super long. I wanted people to be able to enjoy what's going on with it. So in the middle of the video, what I actually did was my loot from the Tbow side, and then I did my loot from the Shadow side at the end, and just compared the loot totals from each side. And so far, I mean, Tbow was just going off. I absolutely love the Tbow. Tbow and Zulrah, they work together. So if you are gonna like if you're looking to get your first mega rare and you want something to camp, this is definitely a good place to make money with the Tbow with very bare minimum gear. But if you're looking at it in the same instance, it's about the same price for a Shadow Missouri currently. I mean, that's a little different. I think the Shadow, or sorry, Shadow and Ancestral. I don't know why I said Missouri. The Shadow and Ancestral is a little, I think, more expensive than just Tbow and like the Blessed Hide at this point in time. They're usually pretty close though. I would say within 100 mil. And you really do need the Ancestral to make the Shadow work pretty much anywheres, especially outside of TOA. In TOA, it's even more of an increase, but you can kind of get away with Virtus in TOA. At Zulrah, you cannot. Uh, at least not the greatest. As you can see, I've been just the thing that frustrated me the most is just getting normal loot after normal loot. I ever have really bad luck at Zulrah. So Zulrah is actually like 1 in 128, but you're supposed to see uniques. And I showed you at the very beginning, I technically have, I think, 4 uniques and like 1100 KC, which means technically I should be owed about 6 total. But, and that's, it's not like for a specific item, it's just the 1 in 128 for all the uniques on the board. So technically, I should have almost like at this point I should have about 10 uniques, and I still only have the 4. Now this was my first Serp Visage, and honestly, that's quite a few KC to get this. I think I was in the 1200s here. Look right here. So I got the Serpentine Visage. I think it was like 12. Yeah, 1284. And at that point, technically, I should have been at exactly at 10. So I'm about half the drop rate, which, I mean, I guess you can't really complain because you're bound to go half the drop rate somewheres. I know, like, for example, my Vardorvis, I'm at 3000 KC. I have one Altor. I should technically have 3. So hopefully at some point I'll get another one. This one I'll probably keep. The last one I did sell because I was able to get some big upgrades doing that to kind of accompany the mega rares that I do have. So I was getting through. I was probably about halfway done with the Tbow one, and I realized that this was quite long. So feel free to skip through some of this. I will put the timers in the description below of when I actually do like my counting for the Tbow, and my the shadow one will be at the end, and the same the comparison between the two. So if you just want to know the totals, that'll be towards the end. If you want to see the total loot from my actual selling at the GE, stick around for that. It'll be about halfway through this video. It's going to be a little over half just because I didn't include all of the shadow ones. And this is something I'm kind of getting used to, some of this video and editing, so my apologies for that. But honestly, this was a really fun grind. The 500 KC only took me a few days to do. I was gonna go for more, but I'm trying to spread out and do different things, which you'll see in the next video, the next episode. I, what's really cool is getting those D-Hallies. I mean, they really upped the price of how much Zulrah is. And it's kind of weird because Zulrah's in that weird state of like it's decent money, and when you do a rebuild, for example, if you're doing like a Tbow rebuild or a Shadow rebuild, it's good starter money to get you the items you need. But I would, or even the Bofa, but I would definitely suggest moving into the raids because that's where you really make the money. I mean, this I did make bank off of Zulrah. This grind here, the 500 KC that I did in less than a week, would have been enough to finish off at least an entry like style set for like TOA, for example, for the Shadow, or even going to Chambers with the Tbow. I would have had everything that I needed gear wise to go into one of those raids and go until I got something decent. Especially if you're running in a group. TOA is kind of the only one that I like to run solo consistently. And that's just, I find it easier solo than in a group. I will say though, in a group, you definitely have more chance. Chambers, I like the group because I'm honestly not the best at it yet. It'll be something that I continue to work out through the year. So you can see the normal loot typically isn't bad. I'd say there's most of the KCs you kind of get are like 100k plus, 100 to 200k, and they're pretty quick with the Tbow or Shadow. I mean, all of them for the most part are under 2 minutes. So I don't know. It was definitely like a good grind to do. You can see it right there. That one was under a minute, and that one was almost 2 minutes. So it just depends on your hits, especially when it comes to the Tbow. It also, if you're not bringing like swaps in, it kind of depends on like the Zulrah setup that you get. Right? There's different rotations. So, for example, one rotation, your Tbow is going to hit all the time. Another rotation, your Shadow is going to pop off really well. So it just depends on what rotation you get. A lot of people do bring range and mage swaps, but like I said, if you are just going for the rebuild and you only have that whatever weapon you bought, whether it's the Bofa, the Tbow, the Shadow, or even you're starting to do the melee to build up to one of those rebuilds, you're only going to have that one set up. But honestly, for the most part, if you have any of those, you're going to probably be getting 2 minute or under KCs pretty consistently. And, you're going to make a bunch of GP. The, the melee phase with the Tbow is just awful. And sometimes you don't hit on the range phase the greatest either. Unlike with the Shadow, you're kind of looking for the range in the melee phase. The Tbow, you're looking for the mage phase. And the range phase isn't terrible to hit against either. But definitely looking for the mage phase. Which is the other thing too, because in the mage phase you get slapped quite a bit because it can mage and range in the blue phase like that. Mage and range. right there was about 1380. I think when I started this, it would have been about another 50 KC until the next one pops up. So this one's going to be just normal loop pretty much from here on out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get us till we can start selling stuff. So give me 2 seconds and we'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. This should be the last KC right here. And then we're going to go to the GE. I'm so excited for this part. Alright, so here we are. So we did 250 Zulrah KC. It's saying in our loot tracker 36 mil. Our total costs were 4 mil. The only thing I don't like about this loot tracker is it didn't track my dragon arrows. So that's one thing I didn't fully account for. But it did kind of take off what I thought the price was going to be for those. And here we are going through the dragon arrows. I'd say we used about 1,000. So we'll add about 2 mil to that. Let's just say I used 6 mil. Loot tracker said we made 36 mil. So all in all profit from this point should be about 30 mil. We're going to go ahead and sell everything off here. We're back. We're selling the last of everything from that first trip with the Tbow, the first half of this with the Tbow. And as you can see, it's a little over what the loot, or a little under what the loot tracker said. So I'd say we made, looking at this, I would say conservatively we made probably 28 mil in profit after the supplies used was calculated. So here we are with the shadow. The shadow, honestly, like I really haven't used the shadow much here. So before this, so as we can see, the shadow to give me some RNG, it gave me the surface like just a few KC in, which was just incredible. So that was my second one. So with the shadow, you can actually see I do use the Magus ring, and I do swap that out back and forth with my recoil. Um, Obviously, you can use a recoil. You can use the Ring of Suffering. I actually do use the Ring of Suffering, but I'm just gonna say recoil. So the cool thing about this is though you can bring your saturated heart, and it gives you that free potion multiple times. The other thing I did get in this was a Magic Fang. I will say my trips were longer with the Shadow, and that's because I was able to get more KC. The thing about the Shadow is when it hits, it seems to really hit. I mean, it's pretty consistently high. It's lots of times when you get the first phase as range into range, your your KC is gonna be really quick. If you get the range into mage, it's gonna be a little slow. And then if you get the range into melee, it's not terrible. They're usually pretty average, about the same as the Tbow. I would say overall, doing the KCs here, Shadow feels much better than the Tbow. So if you're interested in doing eventually like a TOA grind with this, with the Shadow, we're going to try to make that money back and progress your items even further. If you need to start somewheres, Zulrah is a good place with the Shadow. Um, so, in my opinion, when it comes to actually hitting stuff, Shadow definitely outshines Tbow here, and it's just by a little bit. It's honestly not by much. Like I said, the 48-second timer I got was with the Tbow. The one previous was with the Shadow, and actually it was 48 seconds with the Tbow, 49 seconds with the Shadow. I misspoke earlier in this video. I do not believe I showed the magic thing where I got that in this video, just because I was kind of running out of time. I really wanted to get this video out there and make sure it wasn't 45 minutes to an hour long, because honestly, it would have been. And that was just adding the tail end KC where you can see the loot for each one. And it got really repetitive when I wasn't getting uniques. I did get the magic fang. I think I missed that, but that's okay because we'll show it at the end. It is in the loot tracker. Oh, P.S. I also did all those elites, but I did not include them in the loot videos. If you think I should in the future, let me know. I'll make sure I do them all. I will include all of those the clue loots inside of the video. Whether I open it up during or after, they'll be in the video for your viewing. So I think what I'll do here, since I didn't get the magic thing in, is kind of skip. I'm going to jump to the end where we start selling the loot. We get our last few KCs, and when we start selling the loot, so we can do the nice little compare, because I know that's what everyone watches for. All right, so we're back. We sold everything. It says 40 mil. We used about 8 mil, so we technically made 4 mil more with the. I would say about 4 mil more with the shadow over the Tbow. We also got 2 more uniques. So if we did use the Tbow over the shadow, we would have seen. So we made about 5 mil more. Okay. We would have seen a little bit more GP. Um, Probably would have seen another full item's worth. But this is where we end off. No Tanzanite Fang yet. No pet, which is okay. No jar. 4 fangs. 2 serpentine helms. Hmm. But that's it for this time. I hope you all enjoyed. And Shadow was our winner. So if you want to grind some Zulrah, go hit up that Shadow.